1997.
Yeah.
Nah, so like the history, like, so I mean that's when it was. I was 17. 1997. I had some issues where I lived. I had to find somewhere else to go. I moved up to Walkersville, and I went to school. So I started trying to make new friends because I had no clue who anybody was. And this girl named Kim. Well, actually, before that, there was this douchebag named Sean, and he was like my neighbor of where my aunt lived. And I can't say dude. Well, yeah, no. Like we listened to a lot of the same music, so like
You kind of
music was always my thing. So
Right.
we did like mesh in that, and then we hung out, and he pretty much had this girlfriend that was Kim, and I kind of liked her, and I knew I was better than Sean, so like I was gonna try. Well, in the mix of trying, like the interest just wasn't there. Talking to Kim's best friend Tracy, which is now my wife, that's how the story went.
Yeah.
And then just over time, everyone does their own shit. Everyone branches off.
Doesn't
have
thing.
time for people. Doesn't like everyone. Everyone has their own life to live. I get it. And then so years down the road, but I guess even before that, like we used to hang out at your house.
Yeah, because I was just a kid, and my sister, who was Kimberly,
Right.
that you knew. Yeah, you guys would hang out. You would drive.
So at 97, I was 17. I was born in 1980. What year were you born?
89. So I was.
You were young as fuck, dude.
Yeah, because Kimberly's 9 years older than me. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. So anyways, so like you running around the fucking house, and we were hanging there, like, and it was funny because one thing I always remember, and like now that we're talking, like it was brought up. So like Wyclef came out with his solo CD about that time with I forgot like the big tracks on it, like the Stayin' Alive track he did. But anyways, he had like this intro, and he was like, you know, Dragon, like, and all this shit. And for some reason, I don't know, like I said it like one time, and you like fell in love with it as like this little kid. So you would like walk around the house and be like Dragon and like all this shit. And, like, I don't know, it's just something I always remembered. But like yeah, but like
The Dragon Master.
Right. So like, but yeah, so I mean anyone had stuff to do, life goes on. Like we definitely didn't keep in contact, and then this past summer, the end of school last year, Kim's oldest daughter graduated high school, and she was having a graduation party. So we were invited. Obviously you were your
it's my niece and my sister, right?
So I wasn't sure about going. Like we really didn't talk to anybody, but like Tracy and Kim, they still have a thing, even if they don't talk to each other. It's kind of friends. I guess the bond's still there. It's a lifetime friendship. It's just a matter of
it's friends who don't necessarily talk every day, but you kind of pick up where you left off.
Right. So, and then like I don't know, I didn't want to be around people, so I would like to smoke. So I walked up. You were up there smoking, and Tracy mentioned like, why don't you go talk to Andrew? Like, I don't know who the fuck Andrew is. Like, like I knew who you were. I'm not saying it like that. Like I knew who you were, but like
I knew who you were, but it was like I hadn't talked to you guys a long time, so I was like I said hello, but then I was kind of like.
Yeah, you pretty much said like hi and went in the house like when we first were there.
Yeah, because my wife was working, so she didn't. Usually, she's my buffer with my family. Like I love my family, but they drive me the fuck nuts.
Right.
So like for me, it's like I show up. I'm like a fly on the wall. I come and do the thing. I'm there for more of like their say so of me needing to be there, because usually I'm one of those people that does a lot of shit for people. So like I'll show up, they get what they need out of it, and then I disappear. So
I went up front and you were smoking. I figured I'd smoke, and I forgot what hat you had on or t-shirt, but it was definitely a band that I liked.
Yeah,
I want to say it was something slightly stupid, honestly.
Yeah, it may have been. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because then we started talking about that, and then I was like, oh, what about this band? And you were like, oh, what about this band? Like, it was just like...
Yeah, we went from one extreme to the next.
Yeah,
with like,
oh yeah, we definitely
we went
did.
down the rabbit hole of like the music we listened to, and I think we bonded a lot more in a matter of a few minutes.
Yeah, like it was definitely real quick.
We kept smoking cigarettes, really, because I didn't really want to go back.
Yeah.
to the backyard because
Right.
because I came out front initially to smoke a cigarette because I felt there were a lot of kids there, obviously, and there were parents and stuff. And we were outside, but for me, it's like I didn't really feel comfortable smoking around a bunch of people because you know how people get nowadays. Everybody's offended, so I didn't want to like be that asshole. So I tried to just I went to the front yard where nobody was at to kind of smoke, and that's when you came out and started smoking. But it was cool. We kind of we knew each other, but we hadn't talked. And when we started talking about music, it just one thing led to another, and we ended up like, "Hey man, we should hang out sometime."
Right. Yeah.
And then I think we started texting each other, and we're like, "Hey man, we need to meet up." And I honestly I can't remember what the first time.
So then you were talking about putting music together, and like I was like, oh, I got a bass, but I don't know how to play it.
Right.
Like, but and then just in the mix of talking, like you doing your band thing, I told you the direction I want to go. Like I really wanted to do a podcast and eventually, hopefully, do some kind of stand-up comedy, open mic or whatever. Like someone, you got to start somewhere, right?
Right, right. And I'm one of those people, like, I'm pretty creative myself. So for me, it's like, I wished I had somebody who would push me. But that's why I try to tell, like, people who are interested in shit, do it, man. Like, what do you got to lose?
Right.
So for me, it's like, yeah, man, you should definitely do that, which is cool because it's, like, hard to have people who are supportive. Like, people who listen to your kind of stuff, but sometimes you, like, sit there as, like, a creative, somebody who wants to, like, build something, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't do that, or, you know what I mean? It gets kind of, like, on the creative side of it, you're like, nobody's going to take this shit seriously.
Right. It's just the dumbass people that I know that,
right,
like, what the fuck is he saying?
Right.
I feel like I need to hear more people say, what the fuck is he talking about?
Right. So I find there's a lot of that. Like, for me, I was, like, all about it. Like, I think it's something you should do, and shit, man, I've been trying to do the music thing for fucking ever. I've failed miserably, but I think I'm just at a point, like, I've gotten decent enough. And it's like, I know nobody's gonna, like, there's gonna be people that hate it anyway.
But that's no matter what you would do. There's
I feel like it's a
that.
job, though. Like, I have to put it out, because if I don't put it out, I'm gonna regret never putting anything out.
Right.
So, like, because I haven't put a lot of my shit out in the past, I'm like, what I'm doing now, I like more than anything I've ever done. So I really, like, I'm putting a lot more pressure on myself to get it done, but I want to fucking get it out there.
Right, yeah.
So that's why I kind of started up this band, because I hadn't played with anybody for a while, and the few times I've played with people in the past, I got burnt, or I burned myself out, or I wasn't good enough, or I got booted from a group, or everybody just kind of grew up and went their own ways, so shit just kind of ended, you know? Whereas I just kept writing and doing stuff, but I felt like kind of self-conscious about sharing it. Like, sure, I had like a few family members or a few friends go, "Oh, this sounds great, you should put it out." And I'd post stuff, but I wouldn't like market it or be like, "Hey, everybody, you need to hear this," because I was kind of like nervous to share that shit.
Right. So as of right now, your band is what? What's your band called?
Dumbo Ruggly. It means like dumb and ugly. It's the Urban Dictionary, and it's just it's a moniker for like how my life's been. Shit's always been dumb and ugly. Like the good, the bad, the evil, whatever.
Right.
Like every phase of my life, the easier parts to the hardest parts, there's always been a lot of dumb shit going on, and it's always been bad or good or just rough. But at the end of the day, it's all dumb and ugly.
Right.
So,
I mean, you feel like that name speaks to you.
Right,
like,
right. It's just if
fuckery, like.
Right. It's just kind of like my way of saying my life. It's fuckery. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's what I live by, because it really is like. I mean, and I didn't plan for anybody to, like, I guess, kind of connect with that or relate to that, but if people do, because it is pretty general, like. A lot of people probably can relate to that.
Yeah,
I figured, fuck it, man. Then it just builds more off of that. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So, like, influence-wise, like, on the music, because I know you used to do, like, punk music when you were a kid, but this is more like a reggae rock kind of thing. Right.
I'm doing, so it is a reggae rock band. There are a lot of influences, because over the years, like you mentioned, I started in punk rock. And that's a whole other story of how I got to that musical, like, space in my life. But naturally, teenage angst and shit, I had older siblings who listened to punk rock, punk pop, and all that kind of shit. So it led me there. But my parents really is where the music like foundation start. But that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But
That's a 3-hour rabbit hole.
yeah. So for me, like in high school, I was doing the punk rock thing. Of course, I played the drums initially, and then 7th grade, I picked up a guitar and was trying to learn how to play some guitar because it was hard for me to find people that could play on the skill level. Like as a drummer, like I could hold a pretty steady beat, and for a young kid, at the time we were growing up, it was hard to find people my age. So I switched over to guitar, and like punk rock was what I was listening to at the time. So I was like, yeah, this is what I want to learn. And it's melodic, and it was like not just my favorite style of music at the time, but I realized like bar chords, power chords, that's all you had to play.
Yeah.
And it was easy enough to kind of like play along with the songs I liked. So I was like, fuck it, man, this is where I'm staying at.
Yeah, I always feel like that punk sound is like fast and like
Right.
Just like dirty. I mean, it's raw.
Right,
Like
and I mean, who doesn't like a punk rock song that's talking about your girlfriend? You got songs that talk about life, like any Descendants song, relationships, anything like life in general sucks. You know,
yeah,
anything.
it's definitely like the
Right.
the
It's the generalized like music that anybody could relate to and kind of bump their head to. So for
Right.
me, it was like that was what I liked, and I was a kid, but even now, like I love punk rock now. I think I have a different I have different optics for the way I see it now because I understand the words a lot more as an
Yeah.
adult and as an artist. But so I did the punk rock thing for a long time, and a lot of the influence in my current playing is punk rock still. But I always kind of wanted to get into the reggae thing. I used to, in fact, I hated reggae for the
really.
longest time.
Wow.
I liked Bob Marley and stuff, but I didn't really like the kind of
Nothing
reggae
outside
rock.
of like his catalog. Like
No, like I'd never really heard anything else besides UB40 and some of those things like Red Wine and shit like that. Like that stuff I like.
yeah, I don't even consider that. I get it sounding like, but like
right, but they really are kind of considered like a reggae band. So
yeah. So on like the reggae note, like the neighborhood I lived in, a friend of mine growing up, like we grew up through through elementary school, but his mom was a DJ, and they were from Jamaica. So like downstairs was like nothing but like crates of like
reggae records, like
and like
Roots.
so like now even I listen to shit like people are like what does this white kid know about this, like more than you fucking know, like
Right.
yeah, so like I'll still play off the wall shit that probably came out before I was even born, like reggae, but like it was an album, like we were downstairs fucking with music, like and it was
Right.
just another rabbit hole of music, man. Like there's so much shit out there.
Shit, man, like Gregory Isaac and shit like that. Like, there's so many good ones. But you know, I think it was probably the reason why I was so closed off and didn't like reggae at the time. Wasn't I've always liked melodic music and I've always liked the lyrical side of music. But coming from a classic rock background, growing up as a kid, I think it was more of like I became pretty snobby. And I was a teenager, so it was like, punk rock and fuck everything else. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like my musical taste, like I did like other music, but it was like, I gotta be cool and fuck all this other stuff. Like punk rock's it, and fuck this and fuck that. So it was kind of like narrow-minded kind of view
Yeah.
at the time. But as a kid, like growing up in the '90s, like of course I heard Sublime. I liked Sublime. All the like after Brad died, they would play, you know, like the three
Yeah.
or four songs. Like you had Bad Fish, you had Santeria and Wrong Way, and then there was like one or two other ones they would play all the time. So of course I heard those, and then driving around in my sister's car with all of her friends, like they all listened to that music. So of course I heard it and I liked it, but it wasn't something like that. Like when I was a teenager, I was thinking about a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So mainly like NoFX and bands like that, Propagandhi and shit like that. But so I was doing punk rock. Eventually, I got out of high school. I met this girl. We started dating and met other bands who knew this girl because she had dated one of the old members of this punk rock band that we used to play with on and off sometimes. Like our bands would throw shows together and shit. And I met these guys, and that's kind of like they changed the way I looked at things a little bit differently as far as my writing and what I listened to, because they were more into like the crust punk kind of shit and like traditional older punk, but they were really into thrash bands and like the thrash, like the crossovers, like Municipal Waste, Suicidal Tendencies, and shit like that. So it was more of like the metal influences of that style of music. So that kind of took me into the punk rock metal shit for a while, and then I stopped playing for like a while. Like I eventually, I moved from Frederick, up to Hagerstown, and changed girlfriends a bunch of times, was on my own, and then I met my wife and we got married and we started having a kid. But I started listening to a lot of like Sublime, just at work. I was a merchandiser, so for me it was like, I was there when nobody was there. I was putting signage up, and I would just put Pandora on when that was still really a big thing. Yeah. And it would just kind of play through the punk rock shit that I had, and Sublime kind of got feathered into the playlist somehow, I guess. And then it started playing like Slightly Stoopid and Pacifier. Then it started taking me down and playing Pepper and all this other shit. So I'd be working and I was like, man, that song sounds, good. I haven't heard that before. And I kind of like, I got into it quite a bit. And then like, the more and more I listened to it, it kind of became like my normal daily listening music. Like, I'll go through phases where I'm listening to one style music, or I'll listen to an album a lot, or listen to the same band over and over again, and then I'll pick another band when I get bored of listening to the same songs.
Right, yeah.
So I kind of went through this phase, and then I started like picking up the guitar again, like on an acoustic, and I always played loud and fast, so I was always playing like power chords and electric guitar, and I played an acoustic, and I was like, man, I suck. Like the distortion and shit covers a lot of your mistakes. Like, you know what I mean? Like playing differently. There is a huge difference when you play an instrument differently. And for me, it's like I started playing softer, and I actually got better sounding because of it, and I got more technical. But it was because I was listening to like Sublime and like Slightly Stoopid.
Right.
Was like a huge influence.
But you are all like self-taught, right? I mean, you don't have lessons or anything.
I mean, I took lessons as a kid for like 3 weeks. It was from some long-haired college student.
Yeah.
At a music shop, and he didn't really teach me shit. Like, it was like all single fingered notes, like on the top string of the guitar, like brand new. It was like maybe 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
And then like I just was like, my mom was paying like $80 to $100 per lesson, and after like she was like, oh, it's a lot of money, and my dad was kind of pissed about it, but she was doing it because she saw it was something I was interested in. And after a few lessons, and this guy like couldn't show up to a few of them or whatever, and we had paid the money and they were still taking the money, I think my mom was like, well, this is kind of fucked up. And for me, it was like I wasn't really learning shit from him.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't see the point in my mom wasting her money when I could just sit at home and just figure it out, So I did. I'd spend every day after school, any chance I got, I'd be sitting in my room by myself for hours just plucking around and fucking around on this acoustic. Initially is what I had. I had a shitty little Fender Squier that sounded like garbage, and I didn't know shit about tuning them or anything. Right. So it was all standard E, but it was like out of tune, I'm sure. But I had this little. My mom had this folk guitar, and it had like back in the 70s, and she still had it, and it was really warped, but it had like original like horsehair strings on it.
Wow.
So they were really jacked up. like they still were on there, and it sounded cool, but it was definitely way out of tune. But it was like a little folk guitar, and I started on that thing, and I would pluck the hell out of it, man, until my fingers hurt.
And like, started to shed and shit on my hair.
Right. Like I built calluses on my fingers, and the stuff I was making was shit. I mean, it was like really stupid. But when you're a kid and you're just kind of like playing around, and you're like, oh, this kind of sounds fun, and you'd make like your own little shit.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I know it's not what anybody's gonna want to listen to,
right.
but I like it. It's cool, You're just fucking around. So that's really how it started. Then years learning the power chords, throughout high school and getting out of high school, like I would just spend hours in the room playing on the guitar with the distortion. But at this point, I was already married. I picked it back up. I would listen to a lot of like Slightly Stupid was like mainly a lot of Sublime, but Slightly Stupid. I liked the way that they kind of had like these little riffs were like da 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 and stuff like that. So like I just kind of like I gravitated towards it, and I was like I like the acoustic shit they did. So it was like
Yeah, actually, when you mentioned that, so I heard what is the fucking name of that song?
like Devil's Door and shit like that.
Yeah, but like, so I heard it like a Slightly Stupid song, but it was like, and then I heard that acoustic album, where I mean, it's just so fucking
live and direct.
Yes, and that's still like, I'm still hit or miss with Slightly Stupid. I do like a lot of their shit, but like that whole album, that's an album you can put in and not worry about hitting like skip to the next track. Like,
Right. I'm still like that though. Like, I love a lot of songs and I like bands, and I'll sit there and I'll have like the five. Usually like it used to be that I had like 2 or 3 songs that I really fucking liked, right? And then I'd listen to some of the other ones, and like at the time I'd be like, oh, I don't really like that one, or I can skip this one.
right.
Like I like parts of it, but I don't like the whole thing. And now it's weird because I can, if I don't like a certain song or I don't sit down and listen to it all the way through, I'll skip it. I'll come back another time, or I'll just play an album all the way through. And then I'm like, holy fuck. Like, how did I miss this song? And this song is actually better than the ones I liked.
Well, it's funny because like
It's like the more you hear it, you start to appreciate it for
plus
what it actually
plus everything's like go to your computer, hit a track, like okay, next one, like let's go through your library. So like with vinyl records making a comeback, it's been nice just to like
put a record
throw
on,
in
play
a
it through.
record, go do whatever the fuck you're gonna do, listen to the music,
Right.
like, and then like you like you said, like you do hear shit like fuck,
It's like, how did I not?
so then I'm
how
running
did I
to my
not
computer
notice
and like,
this
do
shit
I have this
before?
fucking track in here? Like, no, I don't even have this track. Like,
Right,
so then
right.
I'm like pulling the fucking big record.
Yeah,
Fucking,
and it's goofy because music is so like the way that it's out there. Like you used to have to buy the CD or the cassette tape, and then that was all
yeah,
you
but
had.
do you remember like where you could buy like a single cassette tape?
Oh,
Or,
yeah. Yeah, you used to go
Well, I
into
don't know,
like
motherfucker.
record.
You just said I was like
Yeah.
old as fuck compared to like, so I wasn't sure, but I remember.
No,
I
man.
remember going to like Sam
No.
Goody, and for like $3.49, you buy like a single, so it's
Right.
got either like the main track,
Or it's
either
got, like, a
clean
few
or
songs
edited,
on it.
yeah, or like the back is
Right.
like instrumental or some B-side track.
Right,
but,
right.
like, nah, I just wasn't sure because I am old. Like,
Nah,
fuck
not
you.
that,
You already said it.
not that much older, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, but I wasn't sure even if you were in like the cassette age or if you
Oh,
were
yeah,
like CD.
dude.
I don't
no,
know,
well,
man.
well, I mean,
Goddamn.
we were in cassettes, and then I kind of grew like. I started growing up. Like, I mean, I was a young kid, but like those were still a thing. Like, MTV was still a big fucking thing back then. Like VH1 was still playing music videos, and it was like stuff from the 80s and stuff from the 90s. But it was playing all like those hits that you would dance to. Like you'd be down in your basement with your family watching this shit on the TV, and like as kids, like our parents would be upstairs. My dad would probably be watching the news or a basketball game or whatever. We'd be downstairs, and my mom would be doing laundry, and we'd be like singing songs to like whatever the MTV had on.
Yeah.
And they were doing like all sorts of shit, like the Sultans of Swing, shit like that, like whatever the music video that was on, because they
Right.
would just do hours and hours. Because you had TRL and all that shit, but most of the time, like in the early '90s, it was all music videos, and then Beavis and Butthead would come on.
You're right.
Right, so I still remember a lot of that. I mean, but it was a funny time because we did have cassettes, and then it was kind of weird because towards the mid to late 90s, CDs were the biggest thing, and they kind of phased out the cassette tapes. Like, they had them, but everybody was
But yeah, they
gravitating towards
definitely
that new.
slowly disappeared. And then,
Right. Then you couldn't find them, and then they had this place called Record and Tape Traders, and you could get albums. Like, you could get vinyl,
Yeah.
or you could get tapes.
And that was before vinyl even made a
comeback.
comeback. Yeah,
Right, that
for
was
sure.
pre-comeback. Like, and they really kind of phased that out. You usually had to go to like these hole-in-the-wall places to get shit like that.
But it's funny, but now that these vinyl stores are getting so big, like they're starting to buy fucking CDs again. Like
Right.
I just
Right,
So,
I mean, I
so
think
what's next? Like we're gonna start rocking like 8 fucking
track
like,
maybe shit. There's a nostalgia I think to it, but honestly, I think there is a thing with the vinyl because it does like putting a vinyl on. It just there's just a sound quality about it, and maybe there's a science behind it.
There
or maybe,
definitely is.
or maybe I'm just full of shit.
No, I definitely feel like it's
But I
got
feel
a deeper.
like it's just got
not,
a better sound. Like
yeah.
it sounds full, and you get a better like a resonation off of it. Like it just shit sounds better to me.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm stupid and I'm blowing smoke up my own
No,
ass.
because I mean, even if like you download something from somewhere else, I mean,
I feel like the
it's
digital
a download.
quality
It's not
kind of
like
is fucked a lot of shit too.
right here. Like oh yeah, it definitely has.
Right, because digital shit is cleaner and it's easier to put shit out now. But the quality of even like recording a track, the digital between the analog, like they both have their pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is so digitalized now that yeah, it's great, but it all sounds commercial.
Yeah,
Like
it does.
like if you just put like a mic in front of an amp or had everybody's like all your instruments plugged in or mics hanging from the ceiling on every instrument or whatever, like having a band play in a room and record themselves is going to be way more difficult to record unless they are very solid and well put together as a band that they can make that shit sound good in a room.
Right.
That's been dressed up for that type of setting. But for me, like I record into this little interface that goes right into a program, and I can digitalize. It's digitalizing the signal from my guitar pretty much into the shit, but I can throw plugins and all sorts of shit to make my shit sound the way I can't even make it sound on my actual amp.
Right, but it also helps like Sweetwater, like Guitar Center, like shit's not as expensive.
The industry,
like you don't need like I need studio. Like you can pretty much like
you can
if
do
you
that
have
from
decent
home now.
credit, you can fucking buy it. You don't even have to pay for it right now. Like,
right, you can pay for it later. That's how a lot of people start, and it's kind of funny because, it's like I heard this thing recently about how like Spotify is doing this thing where they're changing the way that people can monetize. They're trying to set a limit to like how you can monetize, kind of like YouTube. You have to have so many followers or subscribers, and then so many hours of views. I think it's like 4,000 hours of view time to be able to start monetizing your stuff to make money. And now so many people, it's become so easy to put your music on the internet, especially massively distribute it.
Yeah.
Not just to like, things like what I use. I use SoundCloud, which is free. And anybody can go on there, but like it's not distributed on like Apple Music, and it's not like going to all the stores. Like you can't buy my shit on the stores. You can literally just go to my page and buy it directly from me.
But you could log it into
Right, I could do that.
because there's definitely a lot of independent that are on
Right.
Apple Music or whatever to
You
make
can-
profit.
Right, but then you've got to do that to protect yourself. You have to buy the copyright and trademark.
Is
and,
all that shit like I mean, I'm sure everything adds up to a fucking pretty
it
because
does.
nothing's fucking cheap nowadays anyway. But
Yeah.
like,
It is. There's a price for everything. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head how much it would cost, but I know like trademark, depending on the type of trademark and what it's for, as far as the brand and the not just the name, but what your use is for it. It could be like a few $1,000s, or it could be a few $100. It just kind of depends on
Right.
what you're doing. And then for music, like you write a song, you want to protect that song, like not just the composition and the music, but the lyrics and all that. You've got to like copyright all that.
so all that breaks down like each individual
Right,
like
it's
lyrics.
all got its own well, it's
So even when you break down like music, is it like this guitar riff, like this drum riff?
No,
like,
you can take the
it's
whole.
just as a whole.
You can take the song as a whole and then have the lyrics like on there, and what you pretty much like. You can go to the patent office online and send them a copy of your song and the lyrics, but then you gotta pay. You gotta pay for them, and then it's a process of them listening to it, and you have to wait for them to okay it and view it, and then make a thing for it, and that's just to cover your ass. So for
Right.
as an independent artist, like. There's a lot of shit that you have to do now. If you were signed to a label, there's usually the contract. In the contract, they kind of tell you what it is they are going to do for you. They usually do a lot of that stuff, but if you don't go into it without that protection, then they could end up, if you don't read that contract, they can end up owning your shit.
Right. Yeah.
And the trade off is they're giving you advances, or they're allowing you to record.
I have read
record.
some bad stories about that.
Right. So nowadays, because it's gotten so easy to be able to do that shit from home, to distribute shit a lot on your own, and the music industry's been falling apart anyway for quite a while because they've been fucking people.
Yeah.
So the industry has changed, the technology has changed, shit has gotten easier to do, and anybody can do it. So like I was saying about Spotify, they're changing. Whereas bands don't. Everybody thinks that bands are making all this money, and they are making money, but they're not. When everybody's paid out, as far as managers and all these things, and whether they're independent or they're not, like there are professional bands that go out and tour, and they're making money, but they're not coming away with a lot of money because there's a lot of things they have to dish out for tour buses and all this shit.
Yeah, but then I hear
expensive.
okay, I'm not gonna say the name, but there's a band that travels around here a lot, and like they've played, I mean, bullshit gigs like either like Champions or like the carnivals around here, but they're like anywhere from $5 to $10 just to come out, and they're just a fucking cover band, but like they have a huge following around this area.
I mean, there's definitely money.
So I mean, there's
money to be made as an artist.
Sure.
But I think for a band that especially one that takes themselves very seriously, like an original artist who's on the road touring, you got to think there's the merch, and that's where they make a lot of money is the merch. They're not usually making a lot of money off their album sales because now with the distribution, it's usually like, I don't know, usually like an 80-20, 90-10. I think in a good case scenario, it's probably a 70 to 30% payout. So like the artist will get 70% of the revenue off of that, right? And then the 30% goes towards like Spotify or whoever, Apple or whatever. I don't know the specific numbers, but I'm sure there is like a breakdown that because they got to pay for that data.
Right, but if it's a hard copy, so say you cut a CD and you're selling it on your
but then you got to pay back if you went into a studio. You got to pay whoever produced that record for you. Most of the bands that are touring, like professional bands, they're not making the shit at home. Like they might make like the rough drafts before they hit the studio at home, but they're not recording their own records unless are well established, where they've been around long enough that they're making their own money. You know what I mean? Independently now, because like bigger artists like say 311 or somebody like that, who has done commercial success and has probably been on a label at one time, they've been through the ringer. They worked long enough that they had made back the money that they had lost.
Dude owns a fucking island. He's made his money.
Right.
But like I
Commercial
also see like
success,
they
too.
started. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? So they started. Then they're selling out huge concert venues, but now they're in like these little fucking venues again. Like, so they've definitely gone the up, and I guess maybe trying to get back there again.
Right.
I don't know, but like, it's almost sad to see bands you like. I like it because it's more intimate setting. Like, put me in a 930 club or a Ram's Head. Like, but the same with comedy. Like, I don't want to go to like. There's stand-up comics I love, and I'm so like, oh, it's grateful. Like, it's awesome to see them succeed to be able to perform at a huge fucking venue, but like I don't want to see it.
I don't want to pay a bunch of money and go to some big
I can watch a special on
amphitheater.
Netflix, but like I get it. Like that's where the money is. Like you're bigger than this like improv or whatever, but like
I think it takes a hit to their success as a career too, though. I think there is like an unspoken thing that if you're a big band or a big artist or a comedian, like once you hit the big times, it's frowned upon if you play smaller settings. I don't know if that's true, but from my view, I feel like maybe there's this thing that if you play those smaller, more intimate like settings, that it could ruin your career.
Yeah, but then you got people like Dave Grohl. I mean, they opened that Anthem or whatever it's called off a 930 club, and like he comes back to do shit like DC area, so like of course you're not gonna get a fucking ticket, it's gonna sell out in seconds,
right
but like even I don't know, a bunch of years ago, System of a Down was coming to 930 club, and it was like a guerrilla tour. Like you go, you sleep on the street, they open the the ticket thing like 9 o'clock. It had to be early because Flounder was down there from Elliott in the morning. Buy the tickets, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Doors open that night at 6.
Right.
And that was they killed that fucking show. Like
Right.
it was awesome. Like I've also seen like Rob Zombie at like 9:30 Club. Like
Right. The club shows are a lot.
Yeah.
I think though there is like a thing like if you're stuck playing in the club thing, it's frowned upon. I think on a.
But I feel like some artists like
business.
it. I mean, they do like it.
Well, it's probably the same way that we feel as like the people who are watching the shows. It's more intimate. Usually, it sounds better. Like you go to those big open like pavilions and shit. Like yeah, if the band's really good and the sound guy's doing his job, it's gonna sound good. But there's tons of people there.
I also noticed in a big pavilion, you want to get as close as possible to see it, so you're not looking up at a big screen like I'm at this concert. Like, but I feel like the closer you get to these big venues, like because
your
then
ears
you're getting
are fucked. You're getting the whole thing.
Right, but you're also getting their speakers, like, and it just sounds so fucking shitty.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of feedback and things you can't control.
Yeah.
You know, and I think at like that kind of setting, they're just trying to make it loud enough and make it sound as good as they can, so that the people in the back who paid a ticket can hear it too.
Right, and I get it.
And it probably sounds better back there, to be frank with you.
But if I go to any show, I'm not like, oh, it goes on sale. Let me buy this lawn ticket.
Right.
Because at that point, like, let me plug my phone into the fucking car and listen to this. Like, I want to see what the fuck I'm like.
Yeah, right. And then I get that. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't know. I prefer going to club shows. I always have. Like, I was going to shows, like, at the age of 13 with my brother, like, seeing punk rock bands and bands I probably shouldn't have been able to go see.
Right.
And shitty locations of D.C. and Baltimore and shit at late at night. And my brother was like, what? I was 13. He was like 19. 18 taking me to these shows like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah, but those are the shows like you still fucking remember.
Dude, I remember everything about them.
I mean, like, I don't know how many times I've seen, like, over the years, I think I've seen Clutch and, like, Hatebreed the most out of, like, all the bands I've seen. But, like, I feel like, well, one, Clutch is local, but I feel like even Hatebreed would, like, constantly come around. So, do you need the password for that?
No.
Oh, okay. I seen you looking at it like, oh, god damn it.
I was checking the time because I go on for hours.
Are we?
No, we're good right now.
All right.
We've got probably about like 10 minutes.
I mean, even if we, like, I just don't want to go like 3. Like,
yeah, you're good. You're good. So like, I don't know, man. Like music in general, like I like the club shows because it is more intimate and it feels better. And I don't like a lot of people like being around. No offense, I don't like people in general, but I like people. I just can't tolerate a lot of too much of certain people. But in public settings, I don't like being around big crowds. So for me, that smaller club kind of feeling, like you're packed in there together, especially on a sold-out show. But for me, it's like it feels better than being like a pavilion, an open pavilion with thousands of people there.
Really? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I
get kind of nervous. I don't know if maybe it's because I'm wired differently over the years, but like, yeah, like I used to be in the middle of a mosh pit a lot as a kid, and I used to do all the like stage diving and shit. And as I've gotten older, my body has deteriorated a lot. But for me, it's like I'll go, and I'm like, I just like to be alone. Like I like to be kind of in the back, so I'll usually try to get like. I'll try to stand in an area kind of in the back so I can view the show. My ears aren't bleeding. I don't hear all the, like, my ears aren't so badly, like, fucking ringing that I can still kind of hear the music and leave the club with them ringing, but they're not, like, I'm not deaf anymore, for days.
Yeah, fuck that. I want that ring for, like, the next 3 days.
I like it and shit. Like, I used to love doing that, but, like, as I've gotten older, like, I'll go but the shows just, like, I don't know, club shows have always kind of been where it's at for me. Like, going to the pavilion shows were fun and had their own little thing, like, when I was younger, but, like, going to Warped Tour and shit, like, that was cool then, but now it's, like, I don't know if I would really want to go to an open festival kind of shit like that now. Like, it'd be cool to see these bands and all that shit, but the sound quality means a lot to me. I'm kind of a snob in that sense. Like,
yeah, so, like, I mean, we used to go to Ozfest every year, and, like, I think I wish they still had that shit, because I would go, because the only thing that sucked about that, like, I'm not worried about the fucking people, like, whatever, but it's like dead of summertime, and I gotta like, so even growing up and like being in the mosh pits and shit like that, like, wash your ass. Like, I get it. You're gonna. I fucking hate funk. Like,
go and then you're
like, there's a
stinking
point.
all
Like, I
the way
get
to
it. Like, we're out sweating, but like, and just like like, I don't
smell like straight shit in the
like,
pit.
I don't want to be
Shit in the pit.
Yeah, so like, I'm fucking like changing clothes before I get in the car because I got some other dude sweat on me. Like, nah.
Like, it was a great show.
But
That's
like, I
not
wish I
even
had
my
these festivals.
smell.
Like, let's do like a fall festival where it's like.
Right, a little bit colder. That way you get warmed, and then your
Yeah,
your
plus, I
sweat's
mean,
all dry by the time.
I remember
you
the
fucking,
one year at Ozfest, like, I wore like a basketball jersey, and like by the end of the fucking day, I had like blisters on the back of my arm. That's how
shit.
fucking hot it was. I mean, it was terrible, and
Right.
like. And like, I'm in the fucking mosh pit. Like, I remember it was like Lamb of God was out there, and like, I'm fucking miserable. I'm done. I've been standing out there all day, and like, what's happening? Oh, like, we're splitting the fucking crowd, and like, I'm dead in the center. So like, oh, this is fun. This is where it's at. Like,
don't touch my blisters.
right. Like, god damn it. But one thing like, so I used to be like 400 pounds, but I always wanted to fucking crowd surf. I never got to crowd. Like, who the fuck is gonna lift my fat ass? Like, one,
Dude,
I'm not
big
gonna
people still get lifted. It still
Nah,
happens.
but I didn't want to be that dick. Like,
Nah, man. I mean, they would have probably dropped you real
so
quick.
like this last concert, where did we go? What concert was it? Oh, it was we went and I took my daughter for her 16th birthday to see Godsmack and Stained, and we were talking. And I was talking to the guy standing next to me, and he was like, I guess he heard me and my daughter talking, and then he kind of was like, what? Like, so we started talking, and I was like, yeah, like, I want to go up. And he was like, fuck yeah, for real. And like, then we started talking, and I was like, yeah, dude, like, this is on my bucket list, and I'm not getting any fucking younger. And he's like, cool. Like, we went through the history of like, you fat fuck to now, like,
yeah,
cool.
like, enjoy this,
But,
you
like,
fat
yeah,
fuck.
whatever. Like, and he was like, dude, are you serious? And like, even my daughter's face was like, are you gonna do it? I was like, fuck
Do
yeah, like,
it.
I want it off this bucket. Like, I don't know why it's such a big deal. I guess because I mean, I used to live at concerts. I mean, anything that come from rap to rock, like even country shows, like, I like live music.
Right.
Plus, like, a lot of times, even if it's not bands I like, sometimes the opener, like, I become a fan, so it's something else to listen to build.
Live music is powerful, man.
So like, I was so excited. Like, this dude pretty much stood with like beside me just for shit.
He made that shit happen.
It didn't happen.
Oh,
because we seeing Godsmack and Stain, so like, of course they're an older band. Well, of course their fucking audience is older. Like, so I'm
nobody wants the crowd. Nobody wants to hold you up.
I lost again. So we got to get to some fucking show.
Like a younger crowd kind of show.
Yeah, like something.
Dude, they're doing a lot of that revival, like the punk pop shit. If you can find a band you
yeah, but I don't
want
to go see fucking Green Day and Fall Out Boy either.
No,
like,
I'm not into that shit either.
But
Just not.
I mean,
There are bands though that I would go and listen to and do shit like that. I mean, there's some bands that still do kind of stuff like that. You could go like see a Less Than Jake or something. There's younger kids that listen to that style of music. You could go like crowd surfing shit with that.
Like, even like a local band, like, fuck it, like,
Fucking man, there's like 2 people in the crowd. Crowd surf.
like, we were one of the 2 people that heard your podcast. Do you want to do this? Like,
Crowd surf.
fuck yeah.
Just have them show up, meet you at the show. And
So
like,
then I was thinking, like, we went to that Mudvayne show. Like, motherfuckers are still got to be crazy. Be like,
right.
no, like, even like, so like.
I think crowds very different. The I will say.
But it's also like
different.
back in the day, like,
We were crazy, man.
it was a fucking like mad people. Everyone knew like shit was gonna go down in about this
pit.
section. So like, the women or like the people who didn't want to be involved like would step aside.
And then
But,
you
like,
had the dudes around the outside of the pit,
but
kind
now
of keeping people
everyone
back.
gets pissed off. Like, even if a little pit starts, it's like, oh, you bumped me. Like, dude, you're at a fucking rock show.
Right.
You
You're gonna
bought
do
this
it.
pit. Like, the bracelet that you're wearing says pit, like, made.
Right. You're not sitting up in the rafter area. You're not
Yeah.
sitting in the seats up
So
above the
it's
back.
almost everything has become so fucking pussified.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of legality shit that was overlooked too. Like a lot of venues don't want you to do that. Shit, I remember going to, I took my friend to a show, and my old band, my old neighbor I grew up with, Mark Butman. We used to go to a show. Well, he has cerebral palsy in his legs, so like, any time he like walked,
Yeah.
he had this movement about him because he's cerebral palsy, but I remember one time we went to watch his brother play, and they were like a rock band, right? He was playing at like Fletcher's in Baltimore. I don't even think that place is there anymore. But
Right.
but they opened for the Ataris, and the dude, one of their bouncers, came over and told my friend to calm down or he was gonna get booted from the club. And the dude, like he was dancing to the song and getting riled up like as if there was a pit, like we were fucking around. Nobody was like, it wasn't that style of music, so there wasn't a pit going.
Right.
And there was maybe like 20 people in the place. but we're sitting there and me and him are getting each other riled up because we know all the songs. We're excited that his brother's playing an opening for the Ataris, but he was like shouting like back like because the singer of the band would sing this part of like one of their songs, and he would say, "Do you remember?" And so Mark would always go, "I remember," So it was kind of like this play on the crowd thing because there's a lot of theatrics like involved with their show. And I remember this bouncer coming over and he was trying to get Mark's attention, but he was like tapping him on his shoulder and he's like, "Hey, you need to calm down or we're booting you the fuck out." Like, thinking that my friend was drunk and that he's being rowdy and shit. And I don't even remember him drinking anything. I mean, we were all of age at that time to do that, but I don't think he was drinking shit. And I looked at the guy and said, I was like, he's not drunk. Like this is his brother's band. Like he's just having a good time. He's not drinking. He's got cerebral palsy. That's why he's moving the way he is. Like he's not drunk at all. And that guy was not having it. Like he just kept yelling, "Oh, he needs to settle down or we're kicking you guys out." And I was like, man, like, fuck you. Like, do you not understand? The dude's got, like, issues with his fucking knees and his legs and shit. Like, that's how he moves. Like, he's not fucking drunk. Like, he thought he was like...
You're rocking out, dude.
You're rocking out too much. You're all fucking...
Yeah, but I mean, even, I feel like any kind of, like, concert venue, like, they really think they are, like...
Right, they just went... This dude was just, like, out for blood.
I mean, because even like... artists now are like stopping their fucking show, like telling them like calm the fuck down, like don't touch them. But that's been going on for years. Like I remember
there are people like that though who do go to shows purposely would get fucked up and will hit people and crowd kill and shit. So there is I think because there has been a lot of that negative shit in the past, there's a stigma around it, and but my thing is if you don't want to be in the pit, stay the fuck out of the pit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for people going and just doing it. That's why I don't sit in the pit. Like, I sit in the back. I have my feet now. Now I go and I have a few drinks. I'll sit there with my wife and my kid when he goes to shows with us, or if it's just me and a few of my friends or myself. Like, I'll go to some of these shows. My friend's band's playing, or some people that I know that I've met through music that I've kind of like followed for a while. And, like, I'll go and I'll watch their shows and I'll have a few drinks, or I'll sit back with my kids with me. I'll have, like, one drink and I'll get him something to drink, and we'll just kind of listen to music because he likes similar music, and we'll watch the show. And at the end, we'll go up to the merch table, we'll buy something, we'll talk to the people we know or the people that we like, and that's it. We take maybe a photo and we leave.
Yeah.
Like, we never hang around. Like, there's people that hang around to the very end. Sometimes I won't even stay the whole show. I'll go for who I want to see. I'll listen to all the bands, but then I know there's going to be traffic heading home, too.
Yeah, I definitely have that. But I feel like I've always had that old mentality, like, we got to get the fuck out of here.
I got to go to bed. I got to go to work tomorrow.
But now it's cool because, like, shit's online. Like, the last concert we went to, like, my daughter pulled it up and was like,
right, everything's on video.
This is the last song on their set list before the encore. Like, cool. Is that a song you want to hear? This first one is... Well, you're going to hear it as we're walking the fuck to the car.
Right, because you don't want to be the last one out of the parking lot.
Fuck that.
You don't want to be the last one up on the highway. And if you're 2-3 hours out of where you got to go, that's a fucking rough drive home, too.
Well, I thought Jiffy Lube is just a clusterfuck to get out of. But when we went and seen Slightly Stupid...
Right,
we weren't even parked on the fucking... No, I didn't even know that fucking place.
Yeah, the mall. The mall's like that. See, they used to do Warped Tours there, and we would park in the back side of the mall and then walk it down to the pavilion. Like, I remember there were a few times, like, when Warped Tour went on there the first time, because the last they did one at it used to be the Jiffy Lube Live used to be the Nissan Pavilion.
Yeah.
And that's where they mainly did it. So like the first one I ever went to, I think it was 2002, 2001 or something. It was there at Nissan Pavilion, which is now Jiffy Lube Live in like Virginia somewhere.
Yeah, but even then, they made that place like a parking lot where they used to have
they didn't have
stages.
Parking. It was just a bunch of field, and it was usually dusty, like it was open. The main pavilion, they didn't even really put. They maybe had a few bands in there throughout the day, but you didn't really go into the pavilion.
Right.
Like it was mainly just stages. Like at least that's how Warped Tour did it. I don't know if there was ever any other like festivals there. I'm sure there were.
Ozfest would always go to Nissan.
Right, but they just had everything out in the open, like a big giant circle, and it was really spaced out. And then they would kind of stagger set times next to each other and the further ones away, and you just kind of walk to whatever area. Like, you knew, hey, this stage, that stage, kind of like they do at festivals. And you'd be like, well, these are the bands I want to see. These are the ones I'm kind of interested in. So you'd walk around, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was like that. But I remember at Merriweather, it was kind of laid out the same way, but there were trees. Whereas at Nissan back then there was nothing.
Yeah.
So you were burnt, and it was dusty as fuck. Buying $1, like shit's expensive now, but it was like going to a ball game then too. To get a water, it was like $6-7.
Yeah, stupid.
To get a fucking freshly squeezed lemonade, which tasted great, but then dried you out even more, it was like $8.
I used to drag my dad to like all these Ozfests because I mean he was like classic rock, like
right. So you could like Ozzy and shit.
Oh
like
yeah.
That
So, but I turned him once to so many other bands, but like it was funny. We were at the second stage, and I was like, "Look, like where the fuck did he go?" And like the guy that was running the concession stand, he's like, he's in here. Like they let his old ass like go in the walk-in fridge and just chill. Like I was like, oh, can I go? And he's like, nah. Like
yeah, like fuck you, kid.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
So, but like I just thought it was cool. I mean, there's definitely. And now Hagerstown has a new venue. Did you see that?
No.
So that Hub City Vinyl.
Okay.
Supposedly it's like the biggest record store in Maryland. But they actually, like, if you pull them up on Facebook, man, it looks like a fucking legit place. Like they're starting to have people perform like this month.
Cool.
But they got a bar, and like you should definitely like check it out. Like I haven't seen any big names yet.
That's what they've needed in this area. Like being from Frederick, that was kind of like they had little bars and stuff, but it was like there's a lot of music and noise like audiences in the town. It is a very musical like city, but it's not like going to Baltimore or Washington like where you could play late at night and go to shows. Like that's where you would go. For bands coming up, there wasn't like a lot of good venues to play at where you knew people were going to be there to listen to you.
Yeah, but now, I mean,
so that's cool that they've got one. Cause
right, not local, but I mean, even DC has like smaller spots now, and like they're getting actually pretty like decent bands and shit. But,
right.
But then like it's a school night, and like, I get up too fucking early. Like,
but that's how it was. That was how it was for us when I was in high school.
Yeah, but I didn't give a fuck back then. I'm old now.
Right, right. It is different. Like you almost gotta take like a week's vacation.
Yeah, no, I don't know about a fucking week, but I'm definitely not coming to work the next day.
Yeah, fuck all that. Nah, man. Like I've tried that, and then I arrived to work late, and I'm all disappointed.
Yeah.
I've got like X's, like instead of the X's that used to have, I've got like the like adult stamp on my hand and shit, and it's smeared. I try to wash it off. It's all smeared on my hand. And then
dog licking that motherfucker off.
I still smell like alcohol and shit.
Yeah, that's a good vibe.
I did that the one time. I showed up to work and I was plastered as fuck. So I drank a bunch of water when I got home. I took like a shitload of headache pills and shit, hoping that would help. And I was like, I gotta eat bread or something, you know what I mean, to soak some of it up. And I don't remember the remedy. My wife did something the one time, and I woke up and I was fine. But I remember going to work on it was a military base because I worked in a lab, and I was so fucked up. Like I was so plastered still from the night before. The whole day I was sweating, and I just reeked. Like you had to know. Yeah. I was fucked up. Like everybody's like, you could smell the funk. Like I could smell myself.
Yeah, I'm still partying over here, motherfucker.
But you could smell just the booze coming off my. Well, it was the only thing I had.
Yeah.
So it's like I know, like they know. I'm
and that's
drunk.
part of the funk with that concert shit too. It's not just somebody's sweat. It's also the fucking booze, and like everyone's like, oh yay, like fucking beer everywhere. Like, nah.
Yeah, it's wild. But I guess getting back to before like you were originally asked me, like how did I get into the reggae?
I guess we did it again, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry.
This loophole.
Fucking railroad track.
Yeah,
is,
railroad tracks.
God damn it.
There's gonna be a lot of that on this show, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think so.
But I started in punk rock. I ended up on that because like I said, I was married and kind of learning all that. So the more I listened to Slightly Stupid and Sublime, turned me on to a bunch of other bands, and I was like, well, shit, I want to start writing like that. And musically, I wasn't that good. Like I never really thought of myself as that. As I could.
But from writing punk music to that, I mean, it's definitely a more chill fucking vibe.
Right,
like,
but there is a lot of relevancy as far as to the writing of reggae rock, like the style of music that I'm listening to. It crosses over like ska, reggae, punk rock. Like they all kind of intertwine. There's a lot of like similarities. There are a lot of differences, but a lot of them kind of like they're like each other's cousins, kind of in a sense, like musically. Like they do kind of intertwine a lot. So I think that's why the like with metal music, there's thrash metal.
Yeah.
There's there's different crossovers that just fit real well, and usually the same people that listen to those styles of music or those styles of metal listen to other styles of metal or other rock music, like harder rock and shit. So there's like this almost like they're related in a sense. So for me, it was just a gradual move. Like it was like I didn't know how to do the whole ska. Like I knew a little bit of like the upstroking stuff, but I wasn't good at it. And the downstroke and upstroke of like reggae was much harder for me to. It's like not hard, but as somebody who's never played it, it's very difficult to learn. It's definitely a technique, and I'm like, oh, this should
definitely when you're teaching yourself too.
Right,
so.
right, and it's like, oh fuck, man, I'm just not getting it. So I just sat there and kept trying to like, I can do the melodies part, and I can make all this shit, and it took me some years to kind of figure it out, and it really was up until this last year. Like I had written acoustic stuff where I was doing like folkish kind of music on my own, my solo stuff, and I took influences, and I do a lot of bar chords still and little like melodies and stuff like that and whatever, but I started incorporating that, and I was like, well, I really want to start a reggae band. Like I really want to do like a reggae punk rock ska band thing, and that's the style of music that I like listening to the most, and why haven't I done this yet?
Yeah, so I mean, like you just got up one morning and was like,
I was like,
I'm thinking about
I went to a Ballyhoo show, and Ballyhoo I'd been listening to for a long time, but they did this show in higher education. They're an independent like act locally to Maryland too, and I went and I saw them with my son. I took my son Ian, and that was his first like concert, and I was like, it's been some years since because I used to follow them quite a bit. Ballyhoo, and so I was like, I haven't been to a show in a while,
right.
Like with my wife or whatever, because we got a house, my son was getting older, it was hard to kind of like find anybody to watch him, and we were kind of weird about, I don't know, like even letting my parents like take him for the night, we were always kind of like, we didn't feel right if we weren't with him, so we put things off a lot, like we didn't get to go out and do those kind of things a lot, like adulting kind of stuff. So as he's older now, it's like, cool, well, he likes the music, so I'll take him along, and this will be like his introduction to going to concerts.
Yeah.
So he had a good time, and from that, I was like, I started chit-chatting with because we made these little, like, videos, and my son has a YouTube channel, and I made a video for Ballyhoo, and then I made a video for higher education of that show. And I sent it to them, and they were like, oh, that's cool. And I started talking to Howie from Ballyhoo, and I started talking to Danny from higher education. And I was talking to Howie, who was recording the record they just put out at the time. And this was probably like 6-7 months before the record came out. And I was talking about music, like, and it was weird because most people, especially professional, like, touring artists, they don't sit there on, like, Instagram and, like, type shit back to most people. Like, you won't catch some artists like actually having conversations with people unless they kind of know you and you've been a long time fan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have been a long time fan, but this guy doesn't really know me. And but he was like just talking to me, and I was asking him questions, and I'd be like, hey man, this, that, and the other thing. He was talking about YouTube and wanting to branch out his brand or whatever. And he kind of like, I was like, hey man, I haven't written songs like in a while. like I kind of just walked away from music because it's like the last song I wrote was for my dad before he died. Like I had wrote it, but I re-recorded it right before he died, like for his funeral. And I was like, it just took so much out of me that I had to walk away, because when I do that sadder kind of folk music stuff, it takes a lot like out of you. Even as like just writing the stuff I do, it's a very it sucks the energy out of you.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
I could only imagine, because some of it, like,
it's kind of mental health kind of thing too, because it's like
yeah, definitely, because
it helps, but it eats away at you too. Like it's I want to say that being a songwriter is like having really serious mental health problems. That's probably why people with mental health problems excel really well at writing music,
right?
Because you're able to express emotions that you have, but like I'm almost kind of like, and I'm ADHD as fuck, but for me it's like once I focus my energy on one thing, I'll be in that room all goddamn night. I won't eat, I won't drink, I won't do shit, but work on this thing until it's perfect the way I want it to, because I'm also a perfectionist. Like I've realized as time has gone on, like I can't, at some point I have to stop myself or it never gets done.
Well, that's why you're here, because I'm not a fucking perfectionist, but you'll see.
I've had to kind of like stop, and I have to know a limit too, because if I don't, I'll go all fucking night and do the same shit, like just to get it to where I want it, and it still won't end up where I want it to be, right? So I've had to learn to kind of like at least know, find a common ground. But it's almost like a mental health thing. Like everybody that I've known who writes music battles themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm only starting to realize that more and more, that I have that in common with them, is that I'm like, I'm my worst critic. And I'm really hard on myself. And I probably don't give myself credit where I kind of could have credit due. Right. Well, you've noticed that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's funny because like a lot of like stand-up comics, they've gone through dark shit. Like I've heard people on either Rogan's podcast or whatever, like they're fucked up. Like
right, I am. So, I've got mental health issues.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
I cope with them, and I don't usually talk about them. Like I don't share with just anybody. Like I guess I could be more vulnerable. Like can share anything with anybody, but I don't usually talk about it because I feel like I'm burdening people when I do.
Yeah. So I don't want to go off on the mental health issue on this episode, but I definitely do want to go there, because I'm dealing with some shit and trying to get shit right. But I made a TikTok video and I was scared to put it out. Like, and even at the beginning of it, I talk about like the stigma of like a mental health. You know what I mean? Like nobody talks about it. So then like I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna post this. Like even if one person watches it, like maybe like whatever. And then like I was like, nah, I'm not posting this. Like so I'm like.
Yeah, but I think that's a creation thing too.
Nah, it really.
It's not just a mental health, and it's the vulnerability.
No, but also like I don't. No, I definitely feel like it was more of that, just because like my thinking was like, well then like, so I'm pretty much putting it out there like, yeah, I'm fucked up, and then I'm like, and then like. So people were like, do you care if I share this? Like, no, don't share it. Like, wait until I put better shit out. Like, and then I'm like, you know what? Like,
fuck it, share
I put
it
out. Like, even though it's shit and it's me, but like, then I'm like playing guessing games with myself. Like, well, if enough people see this, then I'm just gonna be like the face of fucked up. And then I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, but we're all fucked up.
Right. And at the end of the day, like,
right. And if
anything, I can help somebody out.
Right.
So, and like, like I said, I know you didn't check out the TikTok video, but like, it's out there. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of views. Like, it was just put up 2 days ago, but I got texts from people about it, and like, it's really cool. I mean. And like I said, I don't want to go on like this, but I do want to eventually hit something because that is a big part, and like whatever I can do to be vocal on that, and like I'll talk about whatever, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, back to the music.
Yeah, so
like you're fucked up. You're an artist.
No, man, but it is. There's a lot of mental health with making music and stuff, and being just a creator in general, like. And I think it is like you shouldn't be afraid to put it out there, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who can relate to it. Like the people who aren't going to get shit out of it or talk shit about it are going to do it anyway.
Right.
But there are people out there who are quiet, and I feel like it's not just a stigma around the mental health thing, because it's more widely acceptable now, but it's like the men's mental health thing. Not to single women out because they have it, but I feel like it's harder because there's that stigma of a man's got to be a man, and you're a pussy if you have feelings. You know what I mean? Like, nah, man. Like, we struggle, but some people, you know.
And also, I mean,
we struggle.
Like, my dad was fucked up, and I think if maybe he was able to get his own shit together mentally,
right?
Maybe, and I'm not saying it was all my father's fault what I've gone through, but like maybe I wouldn't be as fucked up as I was. Like, he's definitely like a huge contributor of it. But yeah, here we go again. We're off the fucking track. No, we are definitely going down this fucking mental health shit, which is cool, but like.
No, I think what we'll do is we'll just leave it at this. The reggae music thing, like, it took a lot out. So,
but now I feel like we didn't hit the music like we were gonna.
No, but you're good. We'll have plenty of episodes. But as far as that, like, Howie at the time was going through some shit, mental health wise, and we could kind of relate. So we were talking about it, and after I had talked to him, he went back to like doing this tour that he was on, and I had made a video of me like picking up the guitar, and I recorded a little something on the computer, and I posted it, and it was like, I just said, hey man, like, a friend inspired me to pick up music after I haven't played for almost like 2 years, like, of just not even picking up the guitar. Like, this is the first time I picked something up, and it wasn't even reggae. It was like a fucking almost like a hardcore sounding kind of like song, and it was just like a little riff part, like a few, maybe like, I don't know, 30 something bars of just guitar and bass and drums and whatever. And it was just like, I put it out there and I tagged him in it because I was like, hey man, somebody inspired me. And a few people like on my friends thing, because I hadn't used like Instagram, my own personal Instagram, in forever. So I was like, it was the first thing I posted in years because I hadn't used it. And like a bunch of people like on my friends list like they liked it, and they're like, oh shit, like, Andrew's back on Instagram, and oh, Howie Spangler's tagged on this and stuff. And I was like, well, I didn't really know how that shit works, so I knew he was tagged in it, but I didn't realize a bunch of random people were gonna see that shit too. So like, then I started
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah, so then I started getting a bunch of likes and like random people adding me on there and stuff that I didn't even fucking know. And I was like, well, now this kind of looks bad because maybe it may look like I'm using him as a means to get something. So after that, like, I hadn't posted or tagged anybody else any of that shit because I was like, I didn't want to like, use them to gain anything from it. And that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to share with like my friends that, hey, he inspired me to do this.
Yeah.
And then show my appreciation to him that, hey, I tagged you in it because you inspired me to write something. Like, this is the first time I've done something in 2 years.
Right. Not trying to ride your coattails.
And I think that like I think after like I posted that, I started like playing every day again. Like, I was practicing every day, and I was trying to record stuff down in my music room, and I did some more like punk kind of sounding stuff like I used to do. And then I was like, fuck it, man, I'm gonna get a drum beat going and I'll write some bass lines because I can do some bassy shit. And then I was like, I'm gonna try doing like a reggae song. Like, I'll start trying to work, like, make my own music again. And one thing led to another, and then I had my first fucking reggae kind of song thing going. And a friend of mine from work, who's actually a rapper, like, he makes his own music. He does like a R&B and some hip hop shit, but he's mainly like rapping. He was like telling me, he's like, oh, I used to play music, like, you used to like play at bars and shit. And I was like, yeah, man, I used to do that, but I haven't done that in years. And he's like, oh, you should really do it. Like, he's like, you play instruments though, right? Like, he wanted me to do music for him to put in his like raps, like, to like make his shit more melodic. Like, he really like some Kid Cudi shit, stuff like that. Like, he wanted me to do, and I was like, yeah, I'm all about it, man. I was like, I mean, I don't make music anymore. I mean, I was quietly starting to make stuff because he kind of inspired me to kind of start trying, but I wasn't really sold on the idea. So after going to that Ballyhoo show, Howie kind of really, like, after talking to him, was like, hey, man, I guess I'm not the only one dealing with shit. I'm not, like, and this guy does this for a living. So I was like, fuck it, I guess I'll start playing again. It's been a while. I put it down. Maybe it'll feel good to start doing it again. Because the reason I stopped is because it was hurting. like mentally I was drained and I was tired, and the last song I wrote, it just ate it ate away at me, and I was like, okay, I don't, this is not fun anymore. Like it just hurts to do this, and I was like, I need a break. Like I don't want to think about it. I don't have like, I was forcing myself like the day before my dad's funeral to finish that song, like the re-recording, and I tried to do it the best way I could, as clean as I could do it, and it turned out great. But it's just like,
Is that one of the songs that you shared with me or no?
I've shared it with people in the past, but I did like a re-recording, and then like
Is it one of the new tracks? That,
no,
Okay,
I haven't
okay.
shared it. It's more of like an acoustic, like folk song. There's no drums to it. It's just
Right.
me playing the acoustic
wanna
guitar
hear
and
it.
singing it. Yeah. Well, it used to be online. I took it down. It's still on there. I have it set to private, like nobody can hear it. Like a lot of my stuff is on there, but
Yeah.
it's kind of locked. Like I took it down when I started doing the reggae shit, like and posting some stuff. Like I took all that shit down.
But is that like even older shit you've done? Is that shit that you could kind of change the?
I
Not,
could
not saying
change
a song
everything.
about your father, but like I'm saying like
I could reuse and rehash all their
right,
stuff.
maybe
I
bring
could
it to the
re-record.
style you're doing now to bring it back to life.
It's
or is-
harder. It's harder to do that because like, I mean, I could redo all that, but I honestly like I write.
You want to leave it where it's at.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Like I'd rather leave that stuff in the solo. Like there's probably one or two songs when I started trying to do the reggae thing on the folk side of it, my solo shit, that like I could probably rehash because it's more reggae written,
Right.
and I could like make them actual songs now. But like I feel like a lot of the way I write is different because I've progressed so much, and even just the little amount of time I started redoing everything, I've learned a lot, and I've changed the way that I like approach writing and like the composition of music. Because I have little bits and pieces of things I've learned over time, and every time I try to write an album or I write his track, like I'll take things from the previous track that I learned, or like cool ways of how I made the song or arranged them, and I'll try to do that like in a different way but better. So I always try to like grow. But the stuff I couldn't do that. Like I could re-record the songs the way I intended them to and make them better, but like, and I probably could change them. Like I could move the style, the genre over.
Well, I'm
but-
not saying like let's bring
but,
this shit
I
up.
wouldn't-
Let's see if
no,
it'll fuck
but
you up
nah,
again.
but
Like
I-
nah,
nah,
I'm
nah.
just saying like I don't know, man. Sometimes like when you go back and retouch it, you make it better. I mean,
Right. And well, that's what I did with the recording the day before my dad's funeral. Like, but it was like pressure because that like my family had reached out to me and they're like, well, you know, or do you want to play? You wrote him that song, you know, like some years ago when he was still alive. You wrote him a song, like as if he was dying because he'd gotten cancer and he'd been sick for a while. So I wrote him a song about how I felt, and just it was kind of like about him, and you know, just the general thought that we were all having, like how were we gonna live without him
yeah.
and stuff.
Wow.
So I wrote this song. So he heard the original song when I wrote it for him, and I at the time I didn't like sharing that shit with my family because they were always critical about it and kind of poked fun at my music. So I actually played it for him and he cried. Like my dad was not a man of emotions.
Right.
Like
That's awesome, dude.
And he cried when he heard it, and every time he heard it afterwards, he cried. So I can only imagine how he would have felt had he heard the song, like the re-recording of it, because the re-recording was a lot more like beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the vocals were
You-
kind of fucked
you
up
need to hit
because.
Are you good?
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay,
fine.
okay.
No, it was like the recording, like the vocals were kind of fucked up because my voice was like fucked that day, and I was already like stressing over
Yeah.
having it ready. But like my sister and my niece called me like the day before, and they're like, "Hey, do you want that song played at his funeral?" And I was like, "I mean, we could, but the version I have of it sucks." Like, so I recorded it, re-recorded the whole fucking thing in a few hours.
Wow.
Like, yeah, and it was a lot cleaner and better. And I've got like a few compliments off of it. Some from some friends that heard it that also came to the funeral afterwards, but they heard the track because I shared it on like Line when I think I still had Facebook at the time. I shared it and people were like, "Oh my god, like this sounds really good." And they're like, "Why aren't you making more music?" And I was like, "No, I'm done." like
Fuck this, I'm out.
I'm done. Like this was it. This was the nail in the coffin. Like I had some other ideas for songs or whatever, but I was like, I'm not really getting what I want out of this anyway. And it was more like painful. Like it was good to kind of get that shit out, but it was more like I was taking more time away from my family, locking myself in a room to record the songs.
Yeah.
Then I was fighting because I couldn't play to a fucking click track, so I didn't play to a click track. I was just playing the shit.
So what was the time from your dad's passing of fucking I'm done with music to the going back into this?
So
this
it was like two years and some months or something. Like I was in the house that I have now. We bought a house. I did that song. We were in there for about maybe 7-8 months.
Yeah, okay.
And he never got to see the place and shit. Like he kept asking to come see the house, and we were trying to set it up, but he was sick, and my mom wasn't available to really do that, so he never really got to see our place. But I started kind of doing that. He had passed away. I was still kind of making songs, but I really wasn't doing shit, like getting anything done. And I was like, just kind of farting around. Like I had creativity, but it's like I couldn't make things work. Like for whatever reason, I was stopping myself from like, I didn't have a direction. I didn't know what I wanted to make. I just kind of would just play, and then if things kind of went together, I would build upon them. Every time I listened to it, I'd be like, let me try doing this. Let me try playing this. So a lot of times it wasn't even structured. Like I wasn't good at song structuring. Like I would just fucking play whatever and then build on top of it. And I knew that wasn't really probably the proper way of songwriting, but I was like, fuck it, I'm unique and different anyway.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna listen to my shit anyway. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it for me in hopes that maybe eventually I'll learn how to do it properly. But these are like the stepping stones or the building blocks to getting there. And when I took that 2 years of time after the pretty much the night before my dad's funeral is when I stopped. The second I finished that song, I stopped. Like I sat on the couch, I started playing Xbox games, because I was so withdrawn from like my wife and my son at that point. Like that whole day I spent down there away from them, and prior to that, months like to that, when I was writing songs or trying to re-record old songs of mine to make them better, like I was already on that process because I had bought new gear and I hadn't tried it out yet. Like it was sitting pretty much in a box until we got the home, and then we were so busy trying to unpack all the shit into our home that finally when I got to putting my music room together, I hadn't used any of this new equipment yet. So I finally was trying to start to do that, and that's when around the time I started like trying to rewrite songs I wanted to redo. And then my dad died, so I was like asked to do that song on that day, and I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to put the old version on there because I know I could play it better now, and I want my dad, like, he can't be here to hear it, but he deserves a better version of that song being played at his funeral. So I almost felt like I had to do it because even though he wasn't there to hear it, everybody who was there needed to hear it the way I intended it to sound, because they had heard the old version millions of times.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of the rehashed version I did. The only thing I would say is the vocals sucked. The vocals on the old one sucked, but they were much better than. And a lot of it was emotionally, like I was just drained.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was so fucked, and I was trying to keep it together, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a strong singer anyway, so it was like it fucked me up.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, dude, I couldn't imagine like even doing that.
Normal people would be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't fucking redo that thing, but I'm not a normal person. Like I'm fucked.
Yeah, obviously.
but I felt like I had to do it, not just for myself, but for my dad. Like I didn't want anybody, and it was like when they played this song, and probably nobody gave a shit anyway. Like my mom and none of them cried or listened and gave a shit about the song. They probably didn't even listen to it. Like it played at his funeral before, like we each had a segment where the kids read these things or these passages, and then they wrote like little letters or whatever. And then when it came time to play my song, like it played, and I'm sure nobody gave a shit about it but me. Like I was the only one probably losing it because I'm the one who wrote it. You know what I mean? And I remember the feeling of originally writing those lyrics, making that song and what I was feeling at the time, thinking, I want my dad to hear this. And then luckily enough, it was just cool for him to hear the original version. So he did get to hear it.
Right, but at the end of the day, I mean, if it wasn't for anybody but you, I mean, you had feelings for it. It was your thing for your father.
It was touching. I don't know, man.
Yeah, so I mean, even at this point, like looking back, I wouldn't give a fuck if any, like you did.
Right, I did it mainly for me, and I didn't really do it for anybody else. But I've always had a problem trying to reach, putting stuff out there, and like, it's weird because as a person, like talking to people normally, like I'm pretty vulnerable. Like I'll tell you pretty much anything. I'm an open book. I've got nothing to hide. Shit, I could be wrong about something or have a different opinion, and I would still talk to you. Like, I'm not a dick like that where I'd be like, shut you down.
Cancel.
Right, or tell you you're fucking wrong and you're an idiot.
The same opinion as me? Fuck that.
Right. Like, I'm the kind of person, because I feel like you learn more about life and people and shit the more you talk to people. Like, even with a different mindset, like, you may change my view or opinion, or I might completely change yours, and hey, it brings us closer together. If anything, we're learning shit about each other. And even if you still don't agree, like, the fact that we can have, like, a conversation, like...
Yeah, but a lot of that's, like, a thing of the past, though, man. Like,
right. Most people aren't like that anymore. Well, you got fucking social media has turned everybody into a fucking troll. And people are on their phones all the time. So it's, like, communicating... Like, we as people have lost, like, these fundamental building, and that's the way we're wired. That's how we survived, like, prehistorically and caveman. Like, that's how we got to today. Society's, like, we flourished because we communicated. We traded amongst each other. Like, there's going to come a time, like, where all that shit's going to fall apart. Like, our fabric of our society is already, like... It's not entirely destroyed, but it's changed rapidly, and like... what used to be considered normal is so not normal now that, like, it's this, the thought of that is scary. But there are things in our societal, like, ways that we handle shit is kind of like falling apart. Like, and that's why everybody's on edge. That's why everybody's fighting. And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why we have a lot of the mental health, because you can't talk about shit with anybody, right? And especially, like, if you're a man's man, you're looked at differently if you share vulnerable shit.
Yeah, but I mean, even
in general, just people, just people. Like, you can't share certain shit, and those who do either are ostracized or are criticized. And you're beat up by those trolls now. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you've got that regardless, but it's worse now. So most people just shut up. Most people don't say shit. They're too afraid to. They're too afraid to share. Like, for the longest time, I was so self-conscious about sharing my music. Like, now I don't really give a fuck, because I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for anybody else. But if somebody likes it, if somebody's interested in it, or they can connect to it, and they can relate to it, if it makes them feel good, if they're singing my songs, that makes me feel great too. Like, it's just added for me. I mean, I mainly just do it for myself. Yeah. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for profit. But if I can make $1 off it, great. I wish I could quit my job so I could do that shit full time, but I know that's not going to happen. At least not right now. Right. If ever, but if that ever happens, sure. But I'm not going to change the way I do shit because I'm getting paid to do it now. Like, sure, there's going to be more pressure if it's like that because I got to make a check, but I'm not going to change the way I write or the way I feel or my approach to it because I'm making money now. Like, because then why am I doing it? Yeah. If I'm not doing it because my heart's not in it, then it's not for me. Yeah. Like.
Yeah, I mean that's even like the shit I want to put out. Like, there's some shit like I probably don't want to put out or shouldn't put out, but like if I'm trying to stay real to myself and like build on that, then I'm not going to be fake. So like I'll eventually put shit out that's going to make me uncomfortable. Like, I mean, like that video, I mean, like I played you the intro, but like, no, check it out later. Like, I don't want it played in front of me. Like,
right.
So, well, I mean,
but I think the more you do it too, the more comfortable you'll get with sharing that side of you and those vulnerabilities. Cause it feels good to get it out. And when you start to realize that there's other people it's reaching who can relate to that or want to hear it because they're going through similar shit or they've been through things like that, and they're like, it feels good to know you're not alone. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of why, like, this, I would like to get some people who's been through some shit, who's not afraid to talk about it, just so it might be able to reach somebody else. Like,
right.
One fucking person, like,
right.
So my like daily goal is like, it's small, but like if I can make somebody laugh, like, because you don't ever know what the next motherfucker's going through.
Right.
So if I can make you
some Robin
laugh
Williams shit,
just one fucking time, like, yeah, like.
Right, and some of the funniest people are usually suffering the most. And it's weird because I like, dude, I suffer. Like, the last few years have been much better now that I've got my home and, like, I've been working a lot more on myself. There was a point in time where I started taking, like, medication for it, but it felt like a zombie. It didn't feel right. And then I always felt like I was going to be even worse, like, because I didn't want to be medically fucking.
Right, so you did the medication, right?
I tried it
for
how
like, long? I mean,
not at all. Like,
we're gonna get off topic here,
yeah, right.
But like, I want to stay with this for a second because
it was like for a month or whatever, and then
I mean, did it have time? Do you think it had time?
No, it didn't. It didn't have enough time to kick in. But the medicine was making me like sick, and I was working 2 full-time jobs at the time, and I was working at this casino as a security guard, like at nighttime when I wasn't at my other full-time job during the day. I wasn't home at all, like, and I wasn't really eating. The medicine wasn't, like, my appetite. I was losing my appetite, and I was getting thin and shit, and I was stressed out, and I was just in a real bad way. And, like, every time I took that medicine, you're supposed to eat it with it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have the appetite. Like,
but you didn't reach out to anybody to try another medicine?
Like the doctor wanted to try changing it and doing all this shit, and I was just like, nah, man. Like, I've always had these issues, and I've always learned to cope with shit. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those crazy, like, that stigma of, I don't want to be this crazy guy who has to get medication to do it. So I was just like, I probably needed it, right? But I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna find another way. Like, I stopped taking the medicine because it made me feel like shit. It was making me sick every time I took it.
Yeah.
And then when I started eating with it, like, I was forcing myself to eat with it, it was still making me feel sick. So anything I ate was coming back up, and I was like, dude, I don't have time. Like, at the time, I was like, what, 20-something, like 27, 28.
Oh, so this is not recently.
No, not recent. This was a while ago, but I was like, you know, I had a small kid at home. My wife was working all the time too, and then I was working a lot more because I was trying to pick up some of the slack, and I wasn't happy in my other job, but I was trying to, like, you know, make as much money I could in the shortest amount of time because we wanted to get out of the apartment we were living in. So I was on that medicine, and the doctor was like, oh, we can try something else, and I was like, nah, man, like, I'm not even gonna go back. Like, I'll do checkups with you, but I'm fine. I'm good. Like, whatever this is, I'm gonna work through it my own. And he's like, well, I really think that you should talk to somebody at least, and you should try some other things. We can try some other stuff until we find something that works. Like, but you got to give it time to work. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that because I'm not fucked up. Like, I'm not like, I am fucked up, but I'm not fucked up. Like, I know I'm fucked up, but I don't want to come off as like I'm crazy. Like,
yeah, and
you know what I mean? So there's that stigma around it that if somebody knows that I'm on this stuff, they're gonna think I'm fucking crazy. When I know I'm not.
Well, then, like, I'll jump into it. I'll be this crazy motherfucker. So,
right.
What's today? Friday, Wednesday. I'm trying to think. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Actually, I had my first appointment with the psychiatrist. And actually, I got to go get lab works done. He wants to put me on medication. That's kind of why I stopped you when you were talking about meds. Like,
right. You're not, though.
No, like, motherfucker, you just said you didn't want to take it to be crazy. So,
no, but this was years. You got understand.
Hold on.
You understand, though. This was years ago, man.
Nah, but I get it.
My mindset's different from, because I've been through it now. Like, so, like, at that time, I probably really needed to be medicated.
Right, but even dealing with my first meeting with him, I'm like, one, I wasn't comfortable. I mean, right. I know eventually over time, if this is the route I stay or do therapy or something to try to get my head right, there's going to be some digging, of course, right?
Right, but right. That's part of the process.
Some of the shit that was like said at first, I don't feel like it was it was almost like I even told him, like, because he was asking these questions, and I was like, well, I filled out the brain splatter on the wall survey before you seen me, and he's kind of like, I mean, he
Right.
made me fill out a questionnaire. Like, I get it, you're trying to know who the fuck you're talking to, but and like,
But are you actually reading it?
right. Plus, I mean, I'm trying to be on, like,
You're not trying to sugarcoat shit.
that, and then I feel
But you're
like,
also not trying to be too honest too, where they're like, "Oh, this guy's fucking crazy."
right, like in a way, I didn't want to go down this, like, this is the first time we've talked, we've met, like,
Right.
I didn't want to go down this slope like right away, but maybe I came off as dickish to him or something, but like, I just I don't know, so we'll see. I gotta get lab work done and shit like that, and
Yeah.
then I don't know where it's gonna go from here, but like, even then I was like, maybe I'm, even after like talking to him, like, I gotta reach out to the doctor to see what meds I was on before and all this shit, and I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not worth it. Like, I did it, I took a step, I talked to this guy, like, maybe I should just be done. And then I'm like, like, no, like, let's see where this plays out. Like,
Right.
I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be a waste of fucking time, right? I mean, it really could.
No,
But
man, I
even
think
he
it's
was
good.
saying, like, oh, there's so much drugs. Like, yeah, I get it. There's a lot of drugs, but like,
Right, but that doesn't solve necessarily your problem. Like, it's not.
right,
Drugs are not a all one and done thing. Like, even like for health, like drugs were not intended to be a long term like solution to the problem. That's not what they're. That's what we use them for now, but that's not what
that's
their
America.
intent was.
I mean,
right.
that's the world, I guess.
Right,
not
like
just,
you were never supposed to be on something long term. It was supposed to be to kind of get you through until you could be rehabilitated, and that's why like a lot of people believe in like natural remedies and shit, like herbal shit and stuff. Like there are a lot of people. Like I'll be honest, I don't take shit unless I really have to take shit. Because your body has a natural
I'm not
way
a
of
big pill fan,
healing
so
itself.
I'm kind of interested where this is gonna go. Like,
Right.
at the end of the day, like, I mean, I got a job that has random drug tests, so I can't. But like, I feel like I could just vibe, like, let me hit a bowl, like something.
Right,
you know what I mean? It's
right,
like something
right.
basic, like, but
Well, then there's that. I've heard shit about like the microdosing too, like the mushroom stuff, like the very small doses, and it's supposed to help with like people who have bipolar and shit like that.
yeah.
And, like, depression.
But at
I've
the
heard
same
great
time,
things.
I'm a little. Wow, we're really going off of this. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I feel like there's so much dark in me, like. I don't want the devil to try to fucking rape me at the end of like, I don't want to go down the wrong
No,
path, man.
so like microdoses is like
no,
it's,
but like
it's so small that you don't get the high. Like you don't
if I want to jump
you
in,
won't be
like,
tripping.
no, I want to trip.
You won't trip, but you'll feel like you'll feel good. You'll feel happier. Like
Yeah.
it gives that effect, but well, at least that's what I've been told. Like the stuff I've read up on, and there's
Yeah,
a
but
guy
that's
that I
like
work with that does that.
Kind of like addictive personality. I mean, like if I
Right.
jump in, like
You're gonna want to do it every day.
yeah, and I want
You're just gonna want to do shrooms or something.
like
Nah, man. See, I don't
party.
I don't want to fuck with shit because I fucked with shit when I was younger, and I noticed even like smoking weed back in the day, like I had to be in a good mindset, and that shit's not like the stuff I used to smoke is not nearly as strong as the shit they've got now.
No.
Not as medical.
These kids nowadays don't even know what like picking seeds and stems out of
Right.
fucking weed is.
Dude,
like,
they don't know like the middies anymore. They don't know like
fuck
midi
no.
headies and having to find some sketchy dude that knows, or a guy who knows a guy, and he's growing it out in his field in Virginia or something, or from somewhere, or getting it shipped over from California. Like, yeah, you didn't have to go meet up somebody at like the Kmart or Walmart and back alley or some shit like that, or wait hours and do late night cut runs and shit like that. Like that the times are so fucking different.
Yeah.
Like it's so much. I will say that it does cut out a lot of that sketchiness of it though, but the medical grade shit's like super strong.
Yeah, and
Like,
it doesn't cut out the fucking price.
right,
It's
right. You're paying for it, and I mean you're getting the high off of it. But for me, it's like I don't even need it like that. Like for me, like if I need it, I'm gonna do a little bit before bed to chill, right? Or if I need it, I'm just gonna get it to kind of cruise through the day. But I don't want to be fucking bug eyed. I don't want to take a hit and then feel like my whole life, like I need like a day of just sitting around to kind of recuperate and be okay, because I feel like this new like the stuff that everybody's smoking now is so much stronger than what like one or two small puffs is good for me. Because if I take a huge hit or I'm smoking that fucking thing like for a few minutes, the rest of my day is completely wasted.
Yeah.
Like I'm either gonna like sit there and sink into the couch and avoid going out because now I'm gonna get paranoid, or I'm gonna be focused on one thing the rest of the day.
Right.
Like, and I don't want to fucking like. I either want to have my thoughts together or I'm gonna be spaced out the rest of the day, and I don't want. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my day just sitting there doing that shit. Like, I'd love to feel great. I don't want to have to feel the pain my body feels all day long with my back and my shit, but I don't want to devote, like, too much of my time away from the things that are more important to me, like my family and shit, so...
Well, don't go that route with it. You done, like... I'm talking about fucking partying. You're like, oh, take time from your family. Like, nah.
No, you're just
That's not where I'm going with it, though. Like,
fuck, yeah, take time, party with
like
your
we're
family.
not like
Let's smoke this shit together.
Bob Saget and like half baked. You had to suck dick for weed. Like, no, dude. I'm not like.
Like we're going real deep.
Right. Like, god damn. But my family.
My
like,
family.
No.
Nah, bring him along. I can suck dick for a weed.
God damn it. That's not where I was going.
Yeah, man. I don't know. No, I think the taking the medicine for mental health thing. It's there's a stigma around it, but I don't like the views I used to have were very like immature to what I feel now. Like if you need it, you need it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know if you need it, at least try it. Try it and give it a real chance because it might benefit you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm in for. Like at this
Right.
point, like
What do you have to lose? Go through it, and if it works for you,
Yeah.
it works for you. If it doesn't, try something else. Try a few different things before you decide. Oh, this isn't. I'm gonna do something else.
Right. I mean, it's yeah. At this point, like we're just gonna see where it goes.
Right. I think it's weird because everybody has like a different view on it too, and I think like certain people like there are people out there who don't like talking about it.
There's a lot of people out there that
Right. Don't want to talk about
but
it.
people want to listen because I mean, if you go through TikTok, like there's so many of the men's mental health shit. Like people are listening. They
Right.
just don't want to be.
They don't want to be the one talking about it.
Yeah,
And that's understandable. It's not an easy thing to talk about.
it is. It is. I mean, even that dumb, and I say dumb because just it was uncomfortable for me to play it back or whatever. But like, I feel like I kept it real. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And it, I don't know. It was just. I just felt like fuck
sometimes
it.
it's
Like,
hard to share those vulnerable things though. Like it's hard to be like, because you're like, oh shit, now all these people are gonna know this shit about me.
yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, who the fuck am I?
Right. But who the fuck are they to you? Like they don't directly affect you like it. But if you could help somebody,
Yeah, and that's
and you know that you've helped somebody that it may reach, like
yeah,
that makes you feel better about it. Not only are they not alone, but now you're not alone.
right.
So maybe you might be able to share, something you've learned or something that's helped you to somebody who's kind of thinking the thing, but has been on the fences
Where's the
about
Michael
where to
Jackson
go.
track? We gotta play that
Yeah.
shit in the background.
Do. But I don't know, man. But it's been good having this conversation. It's probably gone over like an hour and 40
You don't know what
minutes
it
now.
is.
About roughly.
Did the lockout?
No, it's still gone.
So we're a little over an hour. So you want to call it wraps?
We're about probably an hour and 40 minutes, but yeah, we'll
An
probably.
hour and 40?
Yeah.
Jesus
almost
Christ,
2
dude.
hours. We'll probably have to cut down again.
God damn. We're not gonna do the same episode next week as
No,
like,
no,
to cut
no.
an hour.
No,
like,
we're not
I
gonna
just
do
say
that.
fuck it. Like let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even edit it. Fuck it. It's the first one.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
Right.
Crawl before you walk.
We could do that. What we'll do is we'll probably like shit. We could even just go on and then we'll just like segment this part. Like we just start a whole another fucking episode.
Yeah, we can.
Like we could kind of end it where I said the shit about like reggae music and then go into this mental health thing, streaming off our last thing. So we could do that. Make more than one episode out of doing this. Like as long as we're doing it.
Nah, I'd say let's call this a wrap.
All right.
and we'll stop it, and then whatever. But like, I do want to put this whole thing on there.
Yeah,
like, so.
yeah, we will. We will.
But all right, well, I guess thanks for the fucking train wreck again. We tried to go on. God damn it! So like, people who don't know because it's not out, we tried this last Friday. We were shooting for like 30 minutes. It ended up going over 3 hours, and this time we were shooting for a half hour, and we're at what, almost 2 hours.
Well,
So
I
we're
was
getting
like
better.
30 to an hour, and it's like an hour and 40 now.
God damn it, we are getting better. We're getting there. So
We're cutting it down.
yeah, so let's call it a night, and if you're listening to this on wherever you listen to it, thank you, and
Thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to us, goofy bastards.
we
And
will be
back
back
again.
again shortly.
yeah, talking about all sorts of shit like this, I'm sure.
All fucking train wreck, all everywhere.
Yeah, no holds bar, man. Really, Will's fuckery.
Like this
everything.
is totally like, let's talk. Oh, a squirrel.
Yeah,
now we're down this fucking
Yeah,
road.
it's like a tree. We're gonna branch out to like all these other roots and shit.
Yeah, we're branching like a motherfucker.
Yeah, well, I've got ADHD, so that's,
I have something, I don't know.
you're like, I got everything.
Just not AIDS.
Yeah, not AIDS.
All right, everybody. Thank you all.
Yep, thanks.